Yes, and ladies and gentlemen, under the many factors that we could blame the poverty in Africa for, we have the lack of financial literacy at the forefront of this conversation. So gather round as we witness the ultimate showdown between two schools tackling the motion that reads, the lack of financial literacy in the youth is the main cause of poverty in Africa. Proposing this motion, we have Mayori High School, and opposing the motion, we have St. Paul's High School. All the best to both teams on stage. I'll be your host for today, Hamza Hussein.
I hereby stand in front of you without any fear of contradiction to propose the motion that says that lack of financial literacy is the main cause of poverty among youth in Africa. I hereby start by defining our motion. What is financial literacy? Financial literacy is thereby the skills and knowledge necessary to make informative decisions about personnel, including saving, budgeting, and responsible borrowing. Okay, on to my first point. Compound effect. Many youth continue being financially illiterate since they lack financial literacy. This is whereby we see that in our country, many youth are not educated, hence they lack the knowledge on how to manage their money, and they lack the knowledge on how to bank their money, and the money that they may bank in the banking may help them later to improve or even start a business that may be of importance about their future. We also, on to my second point, importance of financial education. This is whereby we see that education is important onto our country or onto our economy. This is because the people are educated on how to use and on how to manage their funds, whereby they can use their money to increase or multiply the money that they have to make other budgeting services and also to improve their working condition. I hereby would wish to question this to our opposers by asking them to come and join us and say that the lack of illiteracy in Kenya or in Africa is the main cause of youth, or is the main, to say that, to encourage the opposers to come and join us on about the motion that says that lack of financial literacy is the main cause of poverty. Here we can see that even in Kenya, we can see that 80% of the people are illiterate, and this cannot be compared to the USA, where we can see that USA is a developed country since the people there are educated, and hence they come here in Kenya and invest. Thank you.
You want to know something? You can't join their hands. As my fellow antagonist just stated, he has just given the definition of terms of financial literacy. What about youth? What about poverty? What about Africa? So, as a result, you can't join hands with you guys. Need to work on that, on your definition of terms. On to what brought me here. An ounce of care can't pay a pound of debt. That is why I, Tonin Tongai, from the prestigious St. Paul's High School, I'm here to foot down while I oppose the motion that states the lack of financial literacy among the youth is the main cause of poverty in Africa. While financial literacy undoubtedly plays a crucial role in the economic empowerment of Africa, attributing poverty levels in Africa solely to financial illiteracy oversimplifies a complex issue. Africans' poverty is shaped by multifaceted factors, ranging from historical injustice, unequal global economic structures, governance challenges, limited access to resources like education, healthcare, and environment vulnerability. Understanding poverty in Africa requires a holistic perspective that goes beyond financial literacy to address system inequalities and structural barriers that perpetuate economic organization. As an African, can you accept that financial literacy is the main cause of poverty in Africa? You as an African, because you're Kenyans and Kenya is in Africa. I'm gonna say no. And I'm gonna say no while giving you facts. Conviction, not facts, but not factuals. So what is financial literacy? Financial literacy is the ability to understand and apply financial skills effectively, including accountings, what he said, but not accountings, accounting fundamentals, budgeting, investing, debt management, and such on. What is youth? You as a youth, how can you explain youth is? Youth is a young person, just like you as. What is Africa? Africa simply means Africa is the motherland, home to incredible, unique geographical features, rich in natural resources ranging from land, water, oil, and etc., and home to 55 countries of different ethnic groups, race, and language. On to my first argument, corruption. This act exacerbates or increases poverty levels in Africa through various channels, focusing on finance mainly. This act diverts public funds away from essential services like healthcare, education, undermining capital development. Corrupt practices deter foreign investment by several ways, like legal and regulatory risks. Stifle economic growth that perpetuates inequalities. A study by the World Bank estimates that corruption reduces economic growth in Africa by 0.5% and 1%. And at that juncture, I wish I have instilled some sense on why financial literacy is not the main point of poverty in Africa. Thank you.
Seriously, speaking about talking about literacy, I thought we were all literate to define the terms youth, to define the term youth. So who doesn't know the term youth? We are all literate. That's why we're in school. So again, I'd like to pose a question to the opposition team. You say that corruption is a factor that has hindered economic development, right? But we have financial literacy, right? Can this help us to block the factors of being economic stable? You argued that the fact that political instability and corruption are factors that have led to political instability. You argued that the fact that I'd like to ask you that what if, let me start off by my first point, the link of poverty. The young people lack fundamental money management skills. They are more susceptible to engage in debts, and they're not able to manage their funds. So, unable to manage your funds means debt. Debt means poverty knocking in. So, second, the current state of financial literacy in African youth. We see that most of the African youth they have a low rate of literacy, and it's due to studies with less than 1 in 4 demonstrating public competence in finance. According to the Standard Bank 2021 Africa, Wealth reports only that 5 of adults in Africa are financially literate, with the lowest rate in countries like Mozambique with 19% and Malawi with 22%. Again, financial literacy helps us to save. Saving helps us to be able to save. Since when you save, that means you have more money. Having more money means no debt. No debt means no poverty knocking in. So I would like to pose my question again. You argue that the fact that corruption have hindered economic development in Africa, but wouldn't improving financial literacy equip the youth with the tools to navigate through challenging environmental factors that bring poverty? Will it? No. I rest my case.
From the ashes of Ashol Springs, the chains finally free, and the crownless meet king. I am Prince Charles from the St. Paul's High, here to oppose the motion that states lack of financial literacy among the youth is the main cause of poverty in Africa. Our friends here have been blinded by only one factor, which we believe is not the main. This is why. In warfare and conflict in countries such as Congo, according to the World Bank, it states that poverty levels are at 74.6%, making it one of the poorest countries in the world. This country has a lot of minerals such as gold, titanium, and diamond, among others. But the citizens of this country cannot benefit from these minerals. Why? You should explain to me why. The trading between the country like the Congo and other countries is very difficult. They can't easily get other sources of income, but through investing to other countries. This also leads to poverty. The climate change is another factor that causes poverty in Africa. Research according to the United Nations states that over the past decade, weather-related events displaced over 23.1 million on average every year, and I quote, on average. According to ReliefWeb, increased droughts, floods, and other extreme weather events add to stress on water sources, food security, human health, and infrastructure, constraining development. You can't say that we can go to a country that is affected by floods, drought, a lot of landslides, a lot of earthquakes, a lot of many bad related events by weather, and tell me that we can go there and start to educate them on financial literacy. We must first help this country stand very well. Like in Kenya, we have been affected by the floods. The floods, they have affected many people since we were not prepared for them. The government of Kenya was not prepared for these floods and putting the right measures to curb it. Many people's jobs have been lost. Many companies have been destroyed. Those people are depending on that as a source of income. Right now, they're really poor. And therefore, I rest my case. Thank you.
Education is the only key. Education is the only weapon to fight all the poverty which we have in Africa. I will start quickly by answering my friend over here. We have a lot of mining areas. The countries are still poor. How is this evidence? This is evidence due to the misuse of funds. You find that a country is rich. It has a lot of mining areas. It has a lot of gold. Yet it's not yet still possible to move from one economical state to another. This is due to, for instance, you have thousands of money. Instead of using that money on other beneficial factors, they consider using the money on other recreational services. That's why in Kenya, a bottle of beer is going for 250. Yet you can still find people are still purchasing that beer. Yet they are still complaining that there are still high rates of taxes. Another second thing is a positive mindset. A positive mindset. In Africa, as he has just mentioned, it's a mother of resources, right? Right. It's a mother of resources. We have a lot of resources without mentioning fertile lands, rivers, mining areas, but we still depend on the foreign countries because we believe that they already made it and they should empower us. So if we educate people on how to use their money, they will be able to open up their mind and see other places of or other factors of getting money. Another one is when we still educate our youth on important economic factors, such as how to put a quick and a very good incoming business, such as if we empower our youth to education by teaching them on how to manage their science. In Africa, we are lagged behind mainly in medicine and other factors. This is due to a lot of people who are employed and a lot of people who are earning incomes. They go abroad to look for better jobs and better wages, forgetting about their countries. What if we teach people on the importance of managing and making good use of their country to get money? It could lead us to a good factor of also earning money and making our country to go forward. So I urge you guys, there is no need of fighting a losing battle. Please join me to a road to success. Thank you.
A beggar can never be bankrupt. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ryan Mugambi from the St. Paul's High School, here to strongly oppose the motion that states the lack of financial literacy among the youth is the main cause of poverty in Africa. You have mentioned budgeting and investing. I will give you an instance that you can't tell citizens whose countries are in a war and to go and invest. Where will they get the money from to invest? They won't. You can't tell citizens from Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, who have been massively affected by the floods, still recovering, to budget their finances. They don't have any finances. And if you want to mention that the government are helping them, in Kenya, we heard that they had removed money to help the people affected by floods. And since then, we haven't had any development being mentioned by any citizen in Kenya about the money that was used. No. A country like Congo is a resource-rich country, but they struggle with poverty, high rates. They are at 92% according to the United Nations. This is because of poverty. This is because of corruption. When these citizens are the resources that are being used by the citizens are being gotten from the country are not being used by the citizens. They are being used by the people in power. They are being used by the leaders, our leaders themselves. We come to government contracts. Government officials in Congo routinely award lucrative contracts to companies that offer bribes or kickbacks rather than to those with best expertise or competitive pricing. Impact on poverty. Social instability. Persistent poverty and unequal distribution of resources fuel social unrest and political instability in Congo. Citizens lose trust in government institutions and may result to civil unrest or migration in search of better opportunities, further increasing socio-economic challenges. The first speaker, you said that in Kenya we have 80% illiterate people. I wish to correct you and say that it's at 38%. Go do your research better. The second speaker, you said that our first speaker here mentioned corruption. Yes, corruption is a very big setback to our government, to our citizens, especially when you hear about the Masinga Dam project. Money was removed a lot, but have you ever heard of the Masinga Dam project continuing? No. And this Masinga Dam was supposed to help citizens of Kenya to have more things like things of I wish to skip that part. My second speaker said that countries in Africa are resource rich. However, they struggle with widespread of poverty, high employment rates, etc. Despite abundant resources, the reason being corruption. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I wish that was enough to convince you.
I ask again, but wouldn't improving financial literacy give the youth the tools to navigate through and give us economic stability? I think this is enough much. I've given enough this evidence clearly demonstrates that the lack of financial literacy in the youth is a primary driver of poverty in Africa. By addressing this this issue of poverty in Africa, our next generation will be able to be more economically stable, and economic stability is what this Africa needs to move from poverty. I urge all of you to join us in this vital mission of giving the youth financial literacy. Thank you.
How many times should I repeat, we can't join hands? Understand this, I'm not here to lead the lost, but to oppose the motion. These guys seem to be lost, and I'm going to tell you why they are lost. The second antagonist just said that Malawi and Zambia are the countries in Africa with the lowest financial literacy levels. That ain't true. If you may have a phone, you may Google it up and find the solution. It's Somalia with 15%. So Somalia are actually literate than Malawi and Zambia financially, but not Malawi and Zambia are literate than Somalia. The third antagonist just said education is the main key for financial literacy. That's true. But how can you educate people or youth in a country where there's civil war? How? Take an example of the northeastern part of Kenya. The teachers are complaining of war. Why? They don't want to die? Yeah, that's true. They don't want to die. And at that juncture, I wish to raise my case.
The motion reads, the lack of financial literacy in the youth is the main cause of poverty in Africa. There are some key terms here. Lack of financial literacy, youth, main cause of poverty in Africa. Was justice done to this motion from the judge's desk? We feel the quality of research could have been made better. The proposition Mayori high, the linkage between financial literacy and the youth was not coming out solidly. St. Paul's High School, the main causes of poverty were not well tied to the youth, which is a denominator in this motion. Let's go to the individual comments. Vincent, you need to define all the key terms. As a first debater, the key terms are like your bullets in switching the motion to your end. So that needs to come out. And then you spoke about the importance of financial education, and then you said using money to improve their working condition. Then the bit of using money to rid themselves out of poverty did not really come out well. And then as a first debater, you could have gone ahead to give us more solid examples. Do we have global scenarios, regional scenarios, national scenarios? Do we have specific examples where the youth have been taken through financial literacy and they have come up with projects that have gotten them out of poverty? That needed to come out. However, you are very confident, and that is one of the ingredients of a good debater. So with more and more practice, I'm sure you're going to get it right.